right, so the last speaker on the first half, and then I'll give everyone a couple of minutes for a bio break, is Seymour Rifkind, the president of World Pickleball Federation, who has also got experience in other sports, but I'll let him talk about himself. He's going to talk today about the strategy of leveraging an authoritative influence.
Okay, thank you, Karen. First of all, let me just say that our first three speakers have done a fantastic job, and they've really hit upon the nuts and bolts of a federation. Everything that we're doing during this summit is how to build start a federation, the processes to get a federation up and running, and then what can we do to make it successful and achieve our goals and objectives efficiently and quickly. And we've had a number of topics that were brought up by each of our speakers, all which tend to talk a little bit about, in one way or another, achieving objectives and goals. And working with influencers is a way, it is part of the strategy of developing some of the key objectives that you may have. One of the things that I think is extremely important, if you think about what an influencer is, oftentimes we think in our fast-paced society, an influencer is going to help us to achieve mass amount of word-of-mouth branding, oftentimes get hype in social media on sales of a new item. And the intent from a marketing perspective is to try to leverage the speed with which we can take things to market because we're using an influencer. In fact, there are actually people that get paid simply to be the influencer that they are. And the amount of hits that they have, the following that they have on the internet and things of that sort. And that is important in pickleball. However, what I'm going to address is the long-term view and the values-oriented view that I think becomes the overriding aspect of not just pickleball, but any successful organization, and how influencers can be used appropriately for the long term. And if we can just go to the next slide. I say that it's a long-term investment. What I mean by that is that you need to spend time, whether that be money or time or values, with the people that you have forecasted that potentially can be influencers in whatever endeavor that you're working on. So when we're talking about federations, I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh,
no,
okay.
I think it was just a bit background noise.
Yeah, just the door. So as we're talking about federations, one of the common things that most startup federations needs to be aware of are finances. So, you know, having people of influence may just be knowing someone or having an avenue to someone that has recently been exposed to pickleball, that has access to funds, that are in a position to donate, and to have those types of people available can make a huge impact into your organization. It's very important that the values that the organization has is consistent with the values of leadership. And in my professional life, I owned an advertising and marketing firm, and I worked with doing strategic plans as well as advertising campaigns for businesses between $500 million and $1 billion. And many times organizations would change their vision or mission statement based on whatever was popular at the time. But it was oftentimes short-lived and wasn't very successful because management really didn't walk the talk. And it's extremely important that you say what you do and you do what you say. And that could be said in pickleball as far as your federation is concerned, or any business endeavor. So getting a copywriter and getting a sharp marketing person to put together a marketing and a vision statement is one thing, but then having buy-in from your leadership group to be able to truly believe and follow that statement is really the key aspect. And I think that's how people end up judging you and end up judging your organization. And so it's very important that we understand that having a facilitator, really the ultimate objective is that you're using the experience that they have and the influence they have to speed up the objectives that you and your organization has. When it's done with that openly out on a table, then there's usually good results that come from it. Next slide, Karen. Next slide.
Yeah, it's not moving. I don't know why.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
So some of the important points of why, just go back.
Oh, gone too far now.
One of the important advantages of leveraging key people is that if you're late into the market and you've got key people that you can leverage, it speeds up the entire process. And so this could be seen in pickleball as well. You can struggle with having the different people in an organization, but as soon as you have a new organization with a different group of people that are all on the same page, that have the transparency that we've talked about with some of our other speakers, that have the best interests of the players, as we found when there were two organizations kind of battling for players in England, and then all of a sudden Frank and Karen and several other people got together and got buy-in from the players, things changed very, very quickly. And so having people that share the same vision, have the same values, is extremely important. And oftentimes these people could come from different backgrounds. They could come from the financial community. They can come from other sports. I'll give you a quick example here. We just heard from Vari and Anne. Now, Anne is relatively new to pickleball. In fact, I just met Anne a few months ago when we were trying to get her to get involved and be on the European Pickleball Federation, which is a new organization that most of you are already aware of. She didn't want to be involved with that because of time, because of less experience, but I saw right away the experience that she brought from a competition standpoint in particular, with all of her experience as heading up badminton and the number of championships that she's run. And so I kept in contact with Anne. I reached out to Anne again when we needed a competition committee for our World Pickleball Games. She graciously accepted to be on that committee, and everybody else on our committee recognized her experience level, and now she chairs that committee. And so having the right people involved, having the right people that want to take the experiences they have for the common good, I think is imperative to any organization. One of the things that comes up oftentimes, certainly in business and unfortunately even in sports that we love like pickleball, is egos and control ends up kind of oftentimes reaching up and taking over what started out as being a passion. And I think that we need to do everything we can to make certain that we're all working towards the benefit of the Federation, which in turn should be working to grow the game from the children all the way through to the seniors, the all-inclusive nature of pickleball, and that we're working together for the benefit of the game. And egos get put to the side. That's, I think, extremely important. And I've got a number of case histories, but the one that I think shows, I think, a dual purpose of how influencers can be used to quickly affect a federation and a sport is the relationship that World Pickleball Federation developed over the past 3 years with China. So Harry, or Mr. Wang, was introduced to pickleball about 10 years ago on a trip to Oregon, and he went back to China, and I think he toured about 40 different cities. There were a couple of people from the US that went with him, and started to get the ball rolling as far as introducing the sport into China. And there were a number of clubs that have developed, a lot of competition between the clubs. There have been people that have, like in many countries, have seen an opportunity to make money on a growing sport, and weren't really getting the following of the players themselves. And I made 3 different trips to China. First to meet Mr. Wang, second to talk about World Pickleball Federation, third because I understood the impact that China had on the world stage, and in particular in Asia. It became extremely important to me to be able to get buy-in, not just from Mr. Wang and the players, but more importantly, to be able to get an introduction into the government. Because most of us are probably aware that anything that happens in China, when it comes to sports and funding and recognition, you have to be able to get buy-in from the Chinese government. And fortunately, the investment that I made, basically with travel, with spending time with the players, with getting to know all the players, with playing pickleball with everybody over there, with introducing our teaching methodology and the basic values that have come to be the case with WPF, that Mr. Wang was able to get at least an introductory meeting with the Sports Government Federation in Guangzhou. Now, once I found out that that was going to be an opportunity that was going to take place, I used some of the contacts that I've had in China for the last 30 years. So I've known several Olympic champions. Olympic champions are typically heroes in many sports, but in China in particular, they're viewed as royalty, and use them to have an introduction into at least my name and the sport of pickleball, and to be able to get my name at least known with some of the people that I was going to meet beyond the introduction that Mr. Wang was going to be able to do. I also made several visits to Shanghai and to Beijing with some business people that I know, and I've known for since 1990. These people have been extremely successful. They run multi-billion-dollar companies, and they also said, some nice things about myself, as well as about the game that I'm passionate about. And so by the time I got over to China, we had a group of half a dozen people that were representing pickleball, that included Harry and a number of his key people on his board, and myself, and there were half a dozen people representing the Sports Federation and the government in Guangzhou. That meeting lasted about an hour and a half. The presentation went very, very well. And as a result of that presentation, shortly thereafter, I was invited to make a similar presentation to Shanghai and one other country. And if that went well, we'd be able to move on to Beijing. And at that point, we'd be able to get full government support throughout China. Now, today, this took place in December of 2019. But as a result of that meeting, there's several very important things that took place. Number one, the Chinese government put out and recognized pickleball as a sport. In Guangzhou and in the entire southern province, they've put out some revenue and some dollars, and have gotten permission to first introduce the game to citizens throughout the lower province. That was step one. Step two is, as a result of having a positive feedback from the community and from the citizens, the government now has several equipment manufacturers that are government sponsored that are making pickleball equipment. One of the major issues in many parts of the world is that pickleball equipment up until just recently has really been manufactured. Well, sometimes it's manufactured in China, but the companies themselves are here in the US. And so sending paddles to other places around the world becomes extremely expensive when it comes to customs and duties and the price itself. When you know the American equipment manufacturers take their profits, sometimes by the time it gets into the hands of the players in other parts of the world, it's you know almost double the price. So to be able to have quality manufacturers that are meeting specifications under the government makes it readily available, not just in mainland China, but throughout that entire region. And then just, you know, within the last 10 days or so, I also was informed that this was discussed at our presentation that we made in December, that a entire sports city is on the table and is in the works in Guangzhou with I don't know, 30 or 40 different sports. And they said that there was a possibility that pickleball would be able to get a certain amount of land to be part of that entire sports community. Now, this is probably going to become 2 or 3 step process, but I was just informed, and the graphic that you see on this slide is a 16 to 20 court facility that will be completed now on what WPF has introduced as World Pickleball Day. It's as you can see, it's all lit. There's not a stadium court at this point. I think there's still time to make that change, and I've actually made the recommendation that they consider having a stadium court. But this will seat several thousand people, and it'll be one of the first outdoor courts throughout all of China. So what this really does is it shows how quickly things can change when you're using an influencer, or in this case, several influencers, all based on trying to get a objective done that is just good for the sport, it's good for pickleball, and it ends up being a win-win situation for everyone. It's a win for pickleball, it's a win for China, because China views pickleball as a potential sport that they can dominate in. And there's no question in my mind with over the past few years that I've been there, because of their success in table tennis and badminton, because of their success and the mindset that they have of training from an early age and drilling, that if this trajectory continues and that the people begin to embrace and the government starts to pour more money around the entire country, which I anticipate will happen, China will become one of the leaders in pickleball within a very short period of time. And that will be good for, obviously for China, it will be good for the entire Asian continent, and it'll be good for our sport entirely. So just quickly in summation, having influencers are a strategy. It's key that the people that you seek out, as well as you as an individual and the organization that you represent, have the same values that are transparent, that are open, that are in our case, all about pickleball, that there's no monetary gain that you're trying to achieve, because that will always come back to haunt you. And I think that's where organizations end up having people in the community themselves mistrusting you because of it. So it's certainly a significant strategy. It can eliminate the amount of time it takes to build your organization, and it continues to build the pickleball family as well, because you get to meet people that had an extremely important influence on seeing our sport grow. So thanks for the opportunity, Karen. Thanks again for pulling all this together. As always, you've done a fantastic job, and I'm ready to